Welcome to Celebration Conversations. I'm your host, Sarah Taylor Young. Join me each week as I talk to singer-songwriters, artists, and friends about how they have turned their pain into purpose. Here at Celebration Conversations, it is my hope that you find motivation and celebration in your own journey. Let's get to it. Tell me a little bit about your music and yourself and how you got started with music and writing.
Well, basically, I've been with my band Sweet Crystal for almost 4 decades, maybe even a little longer. The same three guys that are together now, myself, Bill Blatter on guitar, Steve Weezer on drums, have been together since we got out of high school.
Wow.
We've never stopped. We've never stopped playing. We stopped playing live for about a decade just because there were no places to actually play live around the Detroit area for a while. But we continued to record, work on soundtracks, work on TV shows, and continue to put music out under the Sweet Crystal banner. God has been very good to us, allowing us to stay together this long. We have a new guy with us, Marty's on bass. He's our 13th bass player. So I don't know what's up with that. We have a revolving door in the studio that says bass players enter and leave here. You know, the rest of us come down through the main door. But no, but he's been with us for almost 2 years now, so we feel like we've passed his audition.
Yeah.
So
Oh, there you go. Good job.
that's we started out in the secular realm when we were young and wanted to be rock stars. That was pretty much how it was. We traveled. We had a four-man road crew, 6.5 tons of gear, opening up for everybody from Bob Seger to Foghat to Nazareth to all these classic arena bands. And then in 1978, 79, things changed entirely for me physically. I met Jan, the woman who would become my wife. I had some huge health issues that we just had to finally take it to God. And that she was the one who was responsible for me becoming born again. And once I became born again, lots of spiritual attacks. I had a hole in one of my vocal cords
Oh,
that was
man.
surgically repaired, and I was told I would never sing again. But we took it to God, and here I am, all these decades later, singing, doing exactly what we feel the Lord has for us to do, reaching the world one song at a time, which is kind of the band's motto. So here we are doing. I don't sing the negative bar songs anymore. We don't do anything that's not uplifting. And so I think that was God's way of saying, well, you can go this one direction or you can go this other direction. You decide. So we
Right,
decided on
right.
the right direction.
Yes, yes. So tell me, I thought it was really intriguing and so inspiring, your story about how you came to know the Lord. Tell me a little bit, give me a little bit more details about how that kind of evolved. Did you, you were friends with your wife at first, right?
We actually met. I had just come off the road. We had signed with the management deal, Sweet Crystal. There were five of us in the band back then. Came off the road. Everybody else had somewhere to go and somebody to see. I didn't. So I went down to a local club where the people knew me, and it just so turned out. And this is, I don't know if Jan wants me to tell this story or not. She's a high school teacher, but she had a friend who
Okay.
owned the bar,
Oh,
and
okay.
he needed somebody to come in and waitress. She had never done it in her life, but she was at spring or summer break, and she just said she'll come in. That was the only time she ever went there. It was the only time I ever walked in there because I had friends playing there, and we met kind of there for a little. I watched her. We just kind of talked a little. I went out to a couple other places, and I lost my keys. I couldn't get back in my
Oh,
apartment. So I had to retrace my steps, and they turned out to be sitting on the floor right next to where Jan was standing at the bar getting rid of the glasses and stuff. She goes, "Are
wow.
these them?" And I said, "I guess they are." I picked them up. We sat there, and the bar closes here at 2 o'clock, last call, and then they shut the doors at 2:30. We sat and talked till a quarter to three at the bar. The guy did not close the bar for some reason. We sat there and talked, and then the police walked in and took his license off the wall. We all had to leave, and that was the last time that bar ever existed. And Jan would not give me your phone number. She said she's in the book. If I really want to talk to her, look her up. I did. The next day, I tracked her down. We talked for 4 hours on the phone, and we started dating. I mean, so that was just all God going, well, this will be an interesting story down the road, you know. But I was definitely in the rock and roll mindset. She wasn't. She was a very sweet woman, you know, heavily churched, came from a Baptist background. I came from a Lutheran background.
Okay.
And she just realized then and there that she went to the local Catholic church on the campus of Eastern Michigan University and just said, this is the guy I know I'm supposed to marry. How does this work? Well, so we dated for almost a year, and I'm an avid reader. And so when I would go over and wait for her to be ready to go out, I started looking through her books, and I found the book by Norman Vincent Peale called The Power of Positive Thinking.
Yes, I love that book.
And all right, so I started reading it, and he's based all of his influence on the Bible. So as I read his book, I liked his book. I said, all right, let me get the Bible out. I want to see where he's finding all this stuff. And that was it. I started reading the Bible, and God just went, here you go. And then Jan and I went out to a Bible-based coffee house, and I gave my life over to God. So it's all orchestrated, you know. And you look back on it now, and I go, that was pretty cool. That whole plot line of my life was already set out without me knowing it. And here I am these many years later, just every bit as much in love with Jan and God as I was back then.
Right. Oh, that's a beautiful story. Now, let's be clear. Did she try to like change you, or did she more so just lift you up to God?
No, she lifted me up in prayer. She didn't try to
Yeah.
change me at all because I think she liked me. So yeah, she kind of liked who I was and stuff. But she realized, you know, there were some demons in my life that shouldn't be there if we were to survive as a couple. But no, she never preached to me. She never said anything, but she allowed me to discover my own path. And I know she was right there with me the whole time. And you know what it's like to have a godly partner. Without that, life is pretty darn tough. And
Yes. Yes, it
so this is
definitely is. Well, yeah, I've you know, in my past, I would date guys as a teenager, and I would try to like change them.
oh,
And I specifically sought out the ones that didn't know God so that I could be the one to mold and shape. So I just wanted to, make sure all the viewers know that's not what you're supposed to do. Lift them up in prayer and, just give them to God. If it's meant to be, then it is meant to be. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
and not only that, but it's not a philosophy, that same spiritual walk is in our music as well. We write songs that are meant to uplift and give hope to people. It's not my job. I'm not a preacher. I'm not an
Right.
evangelist. I'm a musician. It's not
Mm-hmm.
my job to preach at people, but it is my job to relate my faith and my adventures in my life and show how I made it through. It's the Holy Spirit's job to convict people. We just stand at the door and knock, and that's what we do. And if the people like the music, then the word will get into their lives through the music. And that's when the Spirit starts working. So that's just what you tried to do as a teenager. That's what
Yeah.
we do as musicians. I'd love to change the world. As our trademark slogan for Sweet Crystal is reaching the world one song at a time. And that's who we are and what we try to do. Every song we write usually ends up in a very positive note. And that may seem kind of, pie in the sky, but it's not pie in the sky, it's God in the sky.
Yeah.
And so that's what we try to do with all of our songs. So you walk away from a Sweet Crystal song, hopefully feeling better about yourself. And maybe there's something in those tunes that you see we can relate to. And you're going through
Yes.
something, we went through something. This is how we got through it. This is how you probably can get through it too.
Yeah, it's just kind of about sharing your story and sharing your testimony because that's so powerful. Nobody else has. It's like a thumbprint. Your testimony is like a thumbprint. Nobody else has that one. All you can do is share it, and it's up to the person and the Holy Spirit to work all that out. You don't have to pound the pavement, beat it over their
Uh,
heads, kind of thing.
but there are some people who feel called to do that, and
Right.
and God bless them for that. That's not me. But everybody has a different path to take, and luckily there are so many different ways that all lead to God. It's a narrow path, but there's a lot of different ways to get to that narrow path. And one of the perks of being a musician, a singer-songwriter such as yourself, is the fact that music releases endorphins within yourself.
Yes.
And not only the physical act of singing and playing, but when you write a song that talks to yourself, then you got a pretty good idea that it's going to talk to somebody. Maybe not everybody, but and it's also a cliche. Oh, if I can only get one person to like my song, then that's all I need. Well, we'd love to reach millions of people, but that is the truth in that little cliche. If you reach one person, it's the one time that person needs to be reached. And you just did that. And there's God up in heaven going, well done, my good and faithful servant. You know?
Have you ever had anybody, a fan come up to you after a concert or after listening to an album and say, "I wanna tell you how this song touched me." Have you ever had that kind of experience?
Yeah, we do, and it's nothing to boast about, but it sure is humbling and something to be happy about. We have one song that my band does called Warriors, and it's all about the men and the women in the armed forces and the sacrifice they not only do they give for us, but it's also the sacrifice of their loved ones staying behind while they go off to stand in the gap for us. And inevitably there's a veteran or a family member who has a veteran in the family that will come up to us after a set for that song in particular. And because it's heartfelt. And the reason Sweet Crystal it came back out into the live scene some 11, 12 years ago was because we were asked to do a veterans benefit show, and people remembered us from the early days in Detroit and just said there are a lot of veterans that remembered you guys when you were back in the bar circuit. Can you come out and play for this? And that was they probably didn't know we had changed kind of the focus of our music, but the quality of the music was still there. So we came out, and because of that, we started doing that annually. We started working with Wounded Warrior Project and a homeless vet shelter here in town, and that song more than anything gets people tears in their eyes because we're singing about their loved ones and what they've done for us. How we can never, you don't have to support any war, but we have to support every warrior, and that's what we do with
Right.
that song.
Right.
I've got one story that it's kind of funny but surprised me. I used to do a lot of prison ministry stuff. We go in and play and do that kind of thing for like a Christmas show or that type of event, and that's a very scary but hopefully rewarding experience. Well, one day my wife and I were at a flea market, and a gentleman twice my size, a foot taller than me, lots of tattoos and stuff, came up to me and he goes, "Hey, you're that singer." And I went, "What?" He goes, "You're that singer. Did you ever play at the Huron Correctional Facility?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I just want to tell you, you were my Christmas present, and I just want to thank you for that. That was the only good thing I had going." And I said back and went, okay, because for a second I said, where is this going to go? So that was a great one. That one you just walked away going, wow, I guess we did do some good. But for one
Right.
second, I'm just kind of going, all right, do I defend my wife here? What is this about to happen?
Yes, yes. Well, that's such a sticky situation, I mean, you want to support and shine a light in those areas, but you also have to be careful, you never know who you're gonna come across. Tell me about what are some projects you have accomplished or currently working on in the moment?
Well, right now the band is working on our seventh release. If you go back and look
Wow.
at if you look at all the names of our CDs, you'll get an idea where we're going. This one will be called Seventh Heaven. The last one was Got Your Six. Right before that was 5 Carat Rock. Right before that was Quad. So you can see how we kind of name them as we go along. We have one song to go on that. It's probably one of the more challenging songs for the singer. Wait, I'm the singer. Yeah, so it's one of the more challenge. It's one of the more challenging songs that I wrote for myself. Thank you
Right.
very much. So we just need to finish that, and the Seventh Heaven CD will get released. We're hoping very, very soon. We've already started penning the ones for Sweet Crystal 8. So we just keep doing that. Last pandemic year was tough for us, but we did release 3 different singles along with supporting lyric videos. We got to do a live 4 camera broadcast from the studio behind me here in September of last year,
Very
which was a
cool.
lot of fun. That was exciting because we got to stay fresh in the minds of the people that know us. it looks like we're up for 3 more Detroit Music Awards this year. We've got I've got 25. The band has 23, so it's not a bad start for a bunch of these youngins. Um, and that award show will be on the 20th of April. So we'll find out if we catch any more. And the awards are cool because it shows people in our industry here in Michigan understand who we are and support what we do. You know, an award's an award. It's great to have them, but you don't go after them just to get a little statue you can put on your ledge. You go after them because you care about what you're doing and because we win them in the gospel Christian category every year. That to me is just one more way that God says, you know, you're on the right path. Whether you're a winner or a loser, it just shows that people are paying attention to who we are and what we have to say. And that makes all the difference in the world for pushing us forward.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love that. How would you describe your style of music and where did the name Sweet Crystal come from?
Well, there's two stories to that. There's the cool story and there's the other story.
I want to hear
Um,
both.
all right. The inspiration, our music is interesting. It's been categorized as current classic rock, you know, so like the same kind of music that was very big in the 70s and 80s, arena rock sound like Kansas and Journey
Okay.
and Meatloaf. People have compared me to Meatloaf, which I don't have a problem with. So it's classic writing styles, but with contemporary sounds. We're kind of some of our songs are very big, very people have called it bombastic, which means you know it's huge anthems, you know. And then we write some heartfelt stuff like you know Heaven's Call, which was about a friend of ours who died suddenly during this COVID thing, and we loved him and adored him, and the song was written in the space of a half hour. I've never written a song in a half hour. My
Yeah.
songs take 3 to 4 years to finish, you
Right.
know. So, but so that because of Vincent's influence on our life, it just came together. And that song is up for one of the Detroit Music Awards this year. So I'd say we're classic arena rock, except there are no classic arenas open anymore. So
Right.
I don't know if anybody, we're classic basement rock now. So how about that?
That's
Yes.
awesome.
Well, so Sweet Crystal, I had a boa constrictor when I was in high school named Crystal for no
Oh,
other reason than, yeah, exactly. You know, my parents hated it. I don't know why I couldn't find any girlfriends. It could have been that reason. Um, but so originally, when the band started way back in the day, we just said, you know, I just name it after the snake. Well, that was pretty stupid in the long run, but it got the name going, you know, Sweet Crystal. It wasn't until, you know, Jan and I got together and I started reading the Bible and stuff that I found references to this river of life that flows out from underneath the throne of God in heaven, clear as crystal, the sweet waters of life. And I just went, that's where it came from. I just didn't know it back then. So, you know, just like God, you know, could use the snake in the Garden of Eden, he used a snake in the beginning of my life to get me down the right path. So, how's that?
yes, yes.
That's my life.
Yes, love it, love it. Um, who are some of your musical influences for songwriting and artists?
I have to say, when we started out, it was really the late 60s and 70s progressive rock scene that really influenced our writing at the beginning. And it still influences us today, but that's how we started listening to bands like Pink Floyd, yes, Uriah Heep, a lot of that kind of stuff, those kind of song genres showed us how to write. We were writing 7 and 13-minute songs, not realizing there wouldn't be a real market for that for quite a while, but that's what we were doing. And then we were picked up by a guy who worked for Atlantic Records.
Okay.
His name was Ali McLaughlin. He had some great hits with Sonny and Cher, uh, Booker T and the MGs, and he had gone in. He had retired, and he came across us and came out of retirement to produce our first couple of real 45s back in those days, and he taught me how to write a 3-minute song. He said he loved what we were doing. He loved our energy. He loved who we were. He said, but he was into airplay. And he said, this is what you have to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And and we did. We started changing our direction that way. We still got the ideas across, but learned how to get the point across in less than 13 minutes. And so that was a huge songwriting change for us. And we've kept that since then. Occasionally we'll get into a 4 or 5 minute song because we love to play. And my guys, we get together every week. We have for all these decades. Every Sunday we get together and keep working on things or just jam. And I have 100 CDs over here that we burn live while we rehearse
Wow.
so that we can go back and just pick and choose nuggets out of it. Because when you jam, sometimes those are 20-minute nuggets. Well, that's way bigger
Right.
than a nugget, but you can find gems in there, little bits of sweet crystal that end up becoming songs. And we still get together. I'm going out to Billy's house, the guitar player's house tonight to work on stuff. And forgive me for saying stuff. That's the one word I've got to get out of my vocabulary. And then Sunday, the whole band will get together over there and we'll just keep rehearsing, working on this. We have some live shows finally coming back in
Good.
April. Yeah, so we're making our way back into the real world. I've been vaccinated. Some of the guys have been vaccinated. So we're just going on faith that that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Be smart. If people are worried to be around you, wear the mask so they feel comfortable. Do what you have to do. But all this too shall pass. It just will. This is
Yeah.
not the end of any of our stories. So that's who we are. That's what we're doing right now.
Very cool. So, has it been interesting following these guys and their journeys, their musical journeys, their spiritual journeys for all these years? Has it been interesting to see how everything's kind of evolved to where it is now?
What's nice? The nicest thing about the evolution of the music business following people that we appreciate is seeing the rise of the Christian music scene. Back when we became a Christian band, which would have been 1980, there
Okay.
were there were no places really to play. There were no radio stations playing
Yeah.
Christian rock. I mean, you could get gospel music, you could get that country western religious songs, but there was no Christian rock, or there was no contemporary Christian scene at that point. But there were bands out there doing it, bands like Petra and DeGarmo and
Right.
Key, but a lot of their recordings sounded like they were done in a garage because they probably were. There were
Yeah.
no major studios that if you weren't famous you could afford to get into. Nowadays, what's nice is the fact that they're like you're talking about your microphone and your ability to do what you do at home is amazing for indie Christian artists just to
Yeah.
get their music together, to get it out to where somebody the next level can grab it and promote it. But if not, somebody like me can listen to Sarah anytime I want on Spotify.
Right.
That's an amazing thing. But watching these bands progress, when the 90s came around, we started being influenced by different bands like Queensryche and, like I said, Kansas and those bands. But then spiritual people start showing up. People like Neil Morris, who was in a band called Spock's Beard, but now Neil Morris is one of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters. I just paid to be in one of his online classes for the last month just to watch
Wow.
how he did it, which was just so educational, inspiring, and very sad for somebody like me going, "Oh my gosh, no wonder your stuff is that cool." But so that's great, and the fact that there are so many good bands out there now, and there are avenues and places that they can play online. There's still no clubs in Michigan. I don't know how Nashville is faring these days, but in Michigan, we still can't open. And not that I'm a big proponent of bar scenes, but we would do Christian music nights in the clubs around town. We would headline,
Wow.
or we'd open for Stryper coming through, or Michael Sweet coming through, or King James would come through. We'd open for them. So there used to be places that we could do nights like that, and it was very sweet because a lot of times people had no place to go to hear heavier, rowdier, louder bands. And now
Right.
there's nowhere. Right at the moment, there's nowhere.
Right, right. Well, we're hoping that will change, fairly soon. Um, Tell me about your songwriting background. How did you get started into songwriting? How old were you, and what are some tips and tools you'd like to give for songwriters just starting out?
I never had any formal training whatsoever.
Okay.
Uh, my mom paid for piano lessons when I was
Right.
probably 9 or 10, along with my sister, and we would go and take the lessons separately but together. And it turned out that I didn't learn anything that I was being taught, I have a photographic memory, and I was memorizing the teacher, the way she played. I didn't learn what she was showing me on the music. And she didn't realize that for a little while until once she put different music on the piano than she was going to play. And she goes, all right, here's our new thing for today. And this is it. And I played what she played. And she goes, that's not what's on on the paper. And I said, okay. She goes, what is this? And I go, I don't know. So I just didn't learn, but I watched her and I learned to play that way. So, I was into my lessons. My mom says, I'm not paying for this anymore. So that was kind of into that. But my family moved to Nashville in seventh grade, and my next door neighbor was in a band. He was a guitar player in a band, and they would rehearse, and I would just go over there and go, oh, I want to do this. So I learned to play guitar, and I played guitar up until 11th grade when I had a catastrophic soccer injury, compound fracture of this wrist, where I could no longer do this on guitar. So
Yeah.
I was in a band, and the guy in the band said, well, why don't you turn your hand around and play keyboards? I said, oh, okay. And so there you
Very
are. And
cool.
so I've been playing. So that's another way God's going, all right, how do we tell him he's a terrible guitar player? And,
Or a
so
brilliant keyboard player.
or a brilliant, yeah, I like that way better. So it wasn't until my band, Sweet Crystal, got together and we started learning, cover tunes, because that's how we started, that I started realizing, well, we could write our own songs. And so it was just a matter of listening to people that we liked and putting those ideas together. The first, hate to say it, but the first 5 years of the band, it was garbage rock and roll. I mean, the lyrics were pointless and self-centered and very worldly. And it wasn't until, I got born again, thanks to Jan, that all of a sudden I realized your lyrics can be detrimental. They can uplift, or they can, tear you down. And I just started at that point. When I got my voice back finally, through the grace of God, I realized I'm not singing stuff that brings people down anymore. I'm not going to do that. If I'm going to sing, and I had a very limited range back then, and still kind of do, I said, I got to sing things I could do and that'll make you feel better, because that's the only way I'm going to get through any of this. So that was my education. It's all self-taught. That being said, for people trying to start out right now, there's only so many chords.
Right.
You can't worry about, hey, everybody else does a G, C, D thing. That's fine. What makes a difference is your lyrics and the way you deliver them. There's only so many notes, but if your lyrics aren't sincere, people will pick up on that. They just will. And it'll, look at the music industry now, not contemporary, but mainstream music is kind of throwaway music. What was the biggest song from 2 years ago? Don't know. What was the biggest song from last year? Don't know. But you can sing the words to Amazing Grace if you want. And unfortunately, you could probably sing the words to Stairway to Heaven too, but that's a whole nother story. But that's the influence of that particular song. What you want to do is make sure that you are sincere in what you are penning, and that sincerity will touch somebody. And not every song is going to be great, but if every song is heartfelt from you, that will make a difference to somebody. If you're trying to write songs for fame and fortune, I can't help you there. Probably Nashville will help you more than anywhere else, because that's
I don't know if they can help either. Not that they're bad, but the market is just so unpredictable at times.
Yes.
And it's changing rapidly right now. So they may write something that's amazing to them, and their producer or the record label may say, I'm not sure how we're going to market this. Or
so if you're trying to chase current trends, that'll be a race you can't ever win, because a trend is always in front of you. So what you have to do, and that's been a blessing with my guys, is that we've never changed our focus on our music or our message or anything. It's just we've stayed the same, whether it's popular, current, or anybody wants to hear it. It makes us smile when we play together. We are such a tight unit that we all make the same mistake at the same time, and if you do it twice, it's jazz. That's how we look at it. Um, but it's amazing to me, and I love the guys that I'm with. They're all just strong Christian men. They've been with me since I got born again. I mean, there were people in the band at that time that drifted away, and like I said, there have been quite a few bass players come and go. But Marty's a very God fearing man, and he's a good spirit to have around. So the four of us just continue what we're doing. You know, we will continue to do it until God calls us home, because you can play music till you can't play music. You
Right.
know, you may not be a virtuoso to the end of your life, but you can still play a chord and go, that sounds sweet to me.
Yes, yes. I definitely agree. When I started my journey with my music, really getting serious about it. I've always sang, always written songs on the side, but when I was growing up, my parents divorced mainly because of the music industry.
Oh,
And when I became an adult, I was like, I'm not going anywhere near that thing.
wow.
And because I wanted to have a family, and I felt like the music industry had really torn our family apart. As I got older, I learned it was more things that, the music industry was more the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. And so I'm 7 months pregnant, and I hear the Lord saying, you just need to make an album. And I'm like,
Wow.
Lord, this is the most inopportune time to to talk about a career change. I was thinking I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I just felt the spirit just saying, no, no, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. And what I found is that it's helped me with my healing and in my struggles. So I'm not like, I want to make money with it. I want my time to be valuable, but that's not the end all be all for me. It's about a greater a higher calling for me. Is that kind of how you feel like?
Yeah, you know what? And I like what you just said. I may steal that line. Your time is more valuable than your money. I like
Yeah.
that. That's very cool, and
We'll
and
have to
that's a
write
good
that.
philosophy. I like that. That's a real nice phrase right there, and a higher calling, definitely. You do you do Christian music because you know who God is and you know what Christ has done for you in your life, and you just want everybody to experience that. That's why you do Christian music. If you do it to make money, well, you know, God bless you. If you can make money on it,
Yeah.
that's for you. And I hope someday it'll pay for itself. But it doesn't matter at this point in my life. You know, my wife and I are retired full time, and I'm back into music full time. And I never really expected to be back here. I thought as I became an adult, you know, eventually I went into the working force, and you just did that. And that's what you did. But the band stayed together. That's what's really nice. Steve and Bill went back and got their education, their degrees, and we all just stayed together. And here we are. All of a sudden, I'm retired. Steve's retired. Billy's still working, but he's working in the music industry. And Marty is retired, semi-retired, so we can just play together all the time. If a gig comes up and we have to travel, we can do it. If
Right.
you know, an opportunity comes up where we can play, we can do it. And we just don't go out to play just to say, "Hey, it's Sweet Crystal, we're playing." We do benefit events. That's why we play out for Wounded Warrior, for veterans organizations, or if somebody's had their house burned down, and by us being there, it'll maybe raise awareness and support. We will go and do that, but we really don't take our time is too valuable for just to go out and play, just to have people look at you on stage, because
Right.
that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is getting out there and helping through our music, and I believe that's why we're still together. I think that's why God still has us here, because our purpose hasn't changed, our focus hasn't changed.
Right. I think if you're doing what God calls you to do, and you're trying to, you know, fulfill that calling the best way you know how, I feel like he will bless you in ways. It might be financially, it might be in other ways, but he's going to bless it regardless, as long as you stay on that path. I don't know about you. My mentor, Cherise Voltori, always tells me, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane because, do you find that as an artist, you compare yourself a lot to others and like be like, why can't I be like that? Or why can't I get those
Mm.
number of streams?
That's an interesting point. I've discovered my lanes actually go in quite a few different directions. I'm playing keyboards for a classic Southern Midwestern blues band called Secondhand Mojo right now. I'm playing keyboards for David Winans of the Winans family, his progressive 70s rock band. I'm doing solo shows. It's called Solo But Never Alone by myself. I'm doing Sweet Crystal. I'm in another upcoming movie. I have quite a movie career. My back of my head is more famous than the front of my head in quite a few major motion pictures. I'll have to list them someday. Uh, but so I find myself perfecting the shotgun approach to music. The downside is I've perfected the shotgun approach to music. And so I spend a lot of time doing a wide variety of things. But my skill set has increased by playing with all these different groups. The one
Mm,
band Mojo, I'm more of a Hammond organ piano guy. On Pi, I'm more of a synthesizer, background strings, and so I bring all that into Sweet Crystal and into my solo stuff. So I feel that that has been a benefit. That being said, what I probably envy the most about people, and I hate to say envy because we know that's not a good word, is the quality of their recordings more than
mm,
anything else. You hear the big acts and the quality of the sound that they get, and I have a great studio here. We do everything here, but I can hear a difference. And it probably doesn't matter to a lot of people because streaming is, dummies
yeah.
down the bandwidth and everything. So everything just kind of gets homogenized there.
Hmm.
But if you're a musician and you listen to what people do, that's the thing that bothers me is I go, how do they get that? And that's why I take classes online. I just kind of say, I'm just going to keep doing this because, there are new tricks I can learn, and that's what I try to do. But I don't envy other musicians for what they've accomplished. I admire them for that and go, all right, that's what I want to do. I'm not envious of the fact you did it, but I go, that's something I'd like to try. So let me figure out what I may or may not be doing right or wrong in order to take that next step. So I'm not jealous of people, but I do wish at times I could figure out what it was that they're doing that I'm not doing. So I keep going. But God's not done with me yet. So
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody just has their own journey. Like my journey is going to be very different from your journey, and that's going to be very different from any other Christian artist. So I remember talking to Karen Williams, my other mentor, and I said, how did you get from point A to where you are now? And she said, I wish I could tell you everybody is different. There's no cut and dry way. It's just
Yeah,
you
because if there was, we'd all do it.
we'd all do
If there
it,
was, yeah,
right?
everybody be doing it, and that would be the end of that because we'd all go, everybody sounds exactly the same, everybody looks exactly the same. All right, I'm done. I don't need any more.
Right, right. So I think it's really important to lift it up to God in prayer every day and just be focused with that. That needs to be the focus point, I feel like.
That was a huge lesson point in the Neil Morris series of recording classes because it was a
Mm,
very fun to sit there. There was over 900 people logged in from around the world watching this for 3 weeks in a row, and he really got back to the basic that everything he does, he takes to God in prayer first. Before I
wow.
sing, before I record the bass track, before I start working with these people, he said there were projects that would come his way that he'd go, I can't believe I'm supposed to be working with this person. He said, but he'd take it to prayer. And he said, in his spirit, he knew God said, this is somebody you need to work with. Maybe not because you need it, but because they need you in their
Mm,
life at this point. So if you can remember that, the fact that you think that everybody's coming into your life because you need them right now, well, it works the other way too. They're coming into your
right.
life because they need what you have.
That's good. Yeah, you have to consistently be a servant, not
Yeah.
just it serving you. You have to give it back. So yes. Well, thank you so much for being on. We'll go ahead and wrap up. I really appreciate. Where can we find your music, purchase it, and what's your website, all that jazz?
Oh, really? People still buy music? All right.
Right? Yeah.
It's easiest place is, of course, the main website, www.sweetcrystal.com. There are, of course, links to everywhere there. Anywhere that you find music, you're going to find us. My wife said the other day, she just had some fun and Googled Marq Speck, Sweet Crystal, and had 30 pages of Google hits before she got to something else, just to show you how long we've been around and what kind of
Wow.
noise we're making. It's pretty funny. I don't know if they were all great hits. I didn't go and look at them and make sure it wasn't a police report from somewhere, but it was a lot of fun for that. But that's all I suggest. Just go there to the Facebook page, Sweet Crystal Band. Um, Everywhere, just everywhere. And if you want to support us, that's great, but you don't have to. If you've got $5 and you want to buy a CD, that's great. If you have $5 and you see somebody who needs $5, give it to them.
Yeah.
You can download our stuff free. If you don't even have any money, you can contact us. I'll send you whatever you need to get your life on track. If we can help, that's why we're here. That's why we're still together. And I just appreciate you, Sarah, for taking the time out of your life to put these kind of shows together. It's not an easy thing. It's not a short venture on your part. So you're doing a lot of us out here a lot of good. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's definitely been a journey learning all this technology and learning, how to do a podcast and
Put on your
everything.
resume. It's a new skill
Right.
set.
Yes, it is.
Uh,
Yes, along with graphic design and my
yes,
goodness.
ma'am.
Oh, anyway, well, thank you so much, and it was a pleasure talking to you and meeting you.
Well, God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your week, month, and year. And I look forward to seeing what you're doing online because you have some very sweet podcasts coming up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. God bless you,
All right,
Sarah.
you too. Bye.
See ya.
Hey there, don't go just yet. Be sure to hit subscribe to be notified of new episodes of Celebration Conversations. Show us some support by liking and sharing to inspire followers and friends alike. Follow me at syoungmusic on Instagram. I would love if you left a comment or a review about the episode.